Diana Spencer, later Diana, Princess of Wales, was the wife of the heir to the throne of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and is the mother of Princes William and Harry. She died in 1997, as I'm sure you know, in a car crash. Here I'm going to briefly explain how some of those who were very close to Lady Diana, and how parts of the international and especially the British media exploited her death for profit and personal gain. As I suppose am I, in this video. Although maybe I could argue that I'm really exploiting the exploitation of her death. But I'm not sure that makes it better. Diana was, of course, an internationally famous individual, known for being a prominent royal, known for her caustic marriage with Charles, for her glamour, her personality, and her charity work. Here's what her brother, Earl Spencer, said at her funeral. His name's not Earl, it's his title. His name's Charles. Obviously.
Diana was the very essence of compassion, of duty, of style, of beauty. All over the world, she was a symbol of selfless humanity.
Earl Spencer used his eulogy to both pay tribute to Diana, but also scold the royal family, and more so the British media, for their treatment of Diana.
She talked endlessly of getting away from England, mainly because of the treatment that she received at the hands of the newspapers. I don't think she ever understood why her genuinely good intentions were sneered at by the media, why there appeared to be a permanent quest on their behalf to bring her down.
I think you might not really blame him for that. Diana was an extremely high-value target for tabloids and glossy magazines when she was alive, and the relentless pursuit by the paparazzi even contributed to her death. An inquest completed in 2008 concluded that her death, as well as the death of accompanying passenger Dodi Al-Fayed and driver Henry Paul, was the result of dangerous driving by Paul, and that pursuing paparazzi were a contributing factor to the crash. However, this seems to be somewhat contested by other investigations. Really, if Earl Spencer did use the eulogy to grind an axe, it was a pretty appropriate axe to grind. Diana had been hounded by the press, her life constantly the subject of intrusion. She was, of course, like anyone, a flawed human being, but because of her status and her incredible fame, and the enormous amount of public interest in her, many private facets of her life weren't private at all. Her death saw the intrusion deepen, and some of those around her cash in. In terms of profits to be had, it was the media as a whole that exploited Diana's death for a long time. In the beginning, there was of course the initial and really justifiable news stories that covered her death and her funeral and the days that followed. Now, I'm not saying that her death shouldn't have been covered in the news, but what I am saying is that there didn't need to be documentary after documentary and special after special, all reconstructing her final hours, all saying the exact same thing. There didn't need to be hour-long presentations of minute-by-minute breakdowns of her death, made over and over, when really documentaries made in 1998 and 2008 can only really say the same thing. She died in a car crash. So did 2 other people. The world mourned. Some people said it was an assassination. That was never proven. Mohammed Al-Fayed was very upset. Princes William and Harry were very upset. The world and his dog were very upset. Diana's death essentially became an industry. Not only did the newspaper headlines, the specials, and the documentaries flow out in 1997, there has been a steady stream ever since. The Daily Express has made Diana a staple of their output over the last 20 years, with regular interviews with people about Diana, retreading of events and accounts, and of course, entirely frivolous speculation. The number of articles or documentaries expounding completely baseless conspiracy theories are pretty astounding, to be honest. Diana is still alive. The driver worked for MI6. British Special Forces caused the crash. Diana was pregnant. There was never such a person as Diana. It's 1963 and you're the subject of a CIA mind control program. You can't prove me wrong. Commonly in these theories, either Prince Charles or his father, Prince Philip, are accused of ordering Diana's assassination. I have two thoughts about this. Firstly, aside from the fact that either of them ordering such a thing would be incredibly illogical and well beyond their power, there is no proof that that happened. Secondly, imagine if you're William and Harry and you have to see this garbage all the time saying that your dad or your granddad killed your mum.
There were approximately 10 video cameras that should have captured Diana and Dodi's journey, but there are no recordings from any of these cameras that evening.
This, I think, is some of the most shameful exploitation of the death of Diana. Yes, maybe suspicion is understandable. Speculation is fair. But at this point, I think people and program makers should either remain silent or prove it, rather than just making another documentary based on disproven testimony and guessing. The mainstream media, all the way down to some guy in a dark room with a broken lamp, have pushed out conspiracy documentaries consistently, because people will watch. There's more from all quarters about her death than there ever has been about her HIV work. The exploitation of her death doesn't, however, stop with the media. Mr. Loki himself, Tony Blair, is an individual, I would argue, capitalised on Diana's death to cultivate a certain image and to connect himself to the image of a very popular figure. Maybe my views on Blair's sincerity have been coloured by, everything else he did, and I don't think he gained a great deal or really had a great deal to gain by capitalising on Diana's death. But still, I don't think I'm being unfair to Blair by saying he is a man who enjoys the spotlight. And like others, I think he enjoyed being seen to grieve. Other people have come out and told their versions of events with differing amounts of sincerity.
And he was explaining that she was injured, when in fact the private secretary, Michael, was telling the six of us in the office that sadly she had died.
Now I think I should say, I can't really begrudge people for sharing their stories, but there's a difference between sharing your story and the way you felt about certain people and whoring off your memories.
And she must have looked at me and thought, you poor little sausage. It's about time you got married. And she knew me well. I stood beside her for 10 years.
Well, she didn't know you that well.
Well, I think she might have.
Do you?
I think the Queen is a very astute woman.
Perhaps no other single individual has profited from the death of Diana more than this one. Paul Burrell was, amongst previous roles in the royal household, Diana's butler. Since her death, he has not only sold his story, and multiple versions thereof, many times, he's used his connections with Diana to leverage himself as a celebrity.
This isn't about the monarchy or anyone else, it's about Paul Burrell. So that's why I'm here.
As well as talking about how much Diana trusted him, as well as writing things in telltale books that could never be proven, such as Diana describing him as her rock and as the only man she could trust, Burrell was charged with stealing a significant quantity of Diana's belongings in 2002.
He denied stealing 310 items belonging to Diana.
The case collapsed, it seems, because it was decided that Burrell knew an awful lot about the royal family, and it wouldn't be in the public interest if that information came out in court. Sure, the public interest.
So no betrayal of the Queen, but she will have reason to feel uncomfortable, will she?
I think the Queen, like everybody involved in this story, everybody else has had their say, everybody else has done what they think is right for themselves, including, my view, the Queen.
Well, if Piers Morgan says so, as well as repeatedly saying Diana trusted him, Burrell has spilled the beans on many things surrounding Diana's personal life over the years, and has been more than keen to talk about the royal household and the private affairs of individuals. He was recorded in 2008 admitting to perjury, and of him, Diana's mother once said, "I hope his balls burn in hell." Burrell was, as I see it, the most flagrant opportunist when it came to enriching himself through the death of Diana, but he didn't do it alone. Newspapers and TV were happy to talk to him, and they still are, and it doesn't matter to them if he's full of shit or not. He may have leached off Diana's image and fame, But that was facilitated by the media, and in turn there was a public demand for content surrounding Diana. People are still making conspiratorial documentaries about Tutankhamun without any new evidence to present, and I guess in 4,000 years people will still be making copy and paste content about Diana. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'd love to know what you guys think about Diana and the media surrounding her death. Don't forget to leave a like and join me next time where I'll be looking at the idea that the Earth is flat and the people who believe in that idea. See you then.
Excuse me. As a parent, could I ask you to respect my children's space?